September 5th, 1996.
Hurricane Fran smashes into the coast of North Carolina. Shelters are filled as hundreds of thousands are evacuated, and thousands more are left without power. With waves surging up to 16 feet, there are widespread fears of flooding. Tonight, Hurricane Fran comes ashore.
This is ABC News Nightline. Substituting for Ted Koppel and reporting from Washington, Forrest Sawyer.
On the East Coast in the Carolinas, it has been a rough night. All night long, Hurricane Fran has been pounding the coast of North Carolina and points inland. In some places, winds gusting up to 120 miles per hour. Now, the eye of the storm made landfall at North Carolina's Cape Fear right about 8 o'clock. That's just south of the city of Wilmington. These pictures are from Holden Beach, just about 16 miles west of Cape Fear as landfall is made. Because of the high winds that you see just beginning to stir up there and fears of flooding, 500,000 people were ordered to evacuate the coasts and low-lying areas in the Carolinas. Most of those people took that advice. Over 180 shelters have been set up to help them. Thousands are already there. And so far, we know of only one storm-related death, a woman who was killed in a traffic accident. Now, before we check in with our correspondents and people who have been riding out the storm from the beaches to points inland and far out at sea, with us, the former director of the National Hurricane Center, joining us from station WFTV in Orlando, Bob Sheets. Bob, can you bring us up to date?
Well, Forrest, right now, the center of the hurricane is just to the north of Wilmington. You see it's showing very well here on our satellite image. Continuing to move northward, it's still pounding the coast there just to the east and north of Wilmington and right on through the Cape Hatteras area. It's going to continue north, and now the main problem is going to be the heavy rains, the floods right on through Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and even into New York. And then the coastal problem with tropical storm force winds right on up through Chesapeake Bay. That's going to persist through Friday and Saturday.
It's certainly a well-formed storm. Anything about this surprise you so far?
Well, the one thing that did surprise us is that it did not strengthen as it moved across the Gulf Stream. So that was good news for the Carolinians there, that it stayed at about 115 miles per hour. It seemed to have the potential to get quite a bit stronger. And for whatever reason, it did not strengthen as it moved across there.
So we can hope that the damage that was feared might not be quite so bad.
Right in the core region. It's going to be bad because of the big storm and long period of time. But yes, in the core region, I think it will be substantially less than it was during Hurricane Hugo.
Former director of the National Hurricane Center, Bob Sheets. Bob, I'm going to ask you to stay with us, if you would, for the end of the program, where we're going to talk about where the hurricane is going and where those heavy rains might be, because that's where the next concern is.
All right, be with you.
Now, as the hurricane was bearing down on Wilmington, North Carolina, right in the center of the storm, most people had taken to the shelters. Dean Reynolds reports.
This is what it's like when a hurricane comes right down your street. This howling, whistling force of nature, born somewhere out in the Atlantic Ocean weeks ago, finally ran aground tonight in a shuddering, sputtering fury, smack onto Wilmington, North Carolina. It packed winds well in excess of 100 miles an hour and outmuscled much that stood in its way, including the city's 123-year-old Baptist church. It continues to stand, but now without its steeple. Weather forecasters spoke ominously of flooding. Perhaps as much as 10 inches of rain is falling here tonight, and more will surely follow in the days ahead. While the city's shelters are full, the streets are virtually empty. Hurricane Fran is moving on, but it is leaving a very big mark. Forrest?
Dean, you are literally right smack in the path of the hurricane. In fact, the eye has just passed over you, and there's a lot more to come, quite obviously. What's this like?
Well, it's eerie. I mean, what you experience is a tremendous, powerful storm, and then suddenly nothing. It just dies. It's not even raining here now as the eye passes over. It is an eerie feeling, and of course a one of foreboding, because we know that the other side of the hurricane will be passing through very soon.
I expect the people there are quite frustrated since they've already gone through this once not too long ago.
Well, they have, and they said they're getting tired of it, frankly. Many of the people that we spoke to were taking precautions that they did not before Bertha, like they were already stocking up on ice and other perishables even before the storm came through, because they figured that they would lose electricity and water and so forth once this storm came through, and they knew that this one would be more powerful than Bertha.
Dean Reynolds in Wilmington, North Carolina. Dean, stay safe. Thanks very much. Now, let me just make clear to you, that was a conversation that I had with Dean Reynolds just about 2 hours ago. That is when the eye was right over Wilmington, when Dean, at least from a reporter's perspective, had the good fortune to be there in the center of the storm to see where it was all happening. And he is with us again now live. 2 hours later, and you've got the back end of the storm that's passed over you, Dean. What was it?
Well, I'm standing here practically on the banks of the Cape Fear River, Forrest, which is an apt location considering the anxiety that attended the arrival of Hurricane Fran. I am here to tell you that the back end of this hurricane is nothing like it was a couple of hours ago when the first rush of wind and rain came through here. It is still not raining now. It had stopped once the eye moved over, and it has never begun again. But there is flood warnings up and down the coast and as far inland as Fayetteville. So they are hearing reports of considerable damage to the east of here, and will not be able to actually assess that damage until first light.
So the worst is over for you. Have you gotten a chance to poke around and see what damage you can see?
Well, you know, we saw that the old church lost its steeple. There's been reports of power outages, gas line ruptures. Some people have lost telephone service and so on. But as I say, the entire extent of the problem will not be apparent until we can actually go out and look around in daylight.
Dean Reynolds will be out doing that again tomorrow. Thank you very much, Dean. It does echo what we heard from Bob Sheets. Perhaps this storm is not as bad as people feared because it did not pick up energy as it passed across the Gulf Stream. But let us check in and see how people who have been evacuated are doing. Toni Randall is Executive Director of the Cape Fear Red Cross chapter. She is with us by telephone from Wilmington, North Carolina. They're operating about, as I understand it, Ms. Randall, is this right, 10 shelters across 3 counties?
Yes, sir.
How are folks doing, and how is your operation faring?
Well, we're doing pretty well. We are greatly relieved. We have over 3,000 people in those shelters right now. And, of course, it's not as bad as we had feared, but it is considerably worse than Hurricane Bertha. We still have a great concern for people who are in their homes. We expect that we'll see a surge of folks into the shelters probably tomorrow evening because of these widespread power outages, and people who may have remained in their homes tonight will have had damage from falling debris. There is extensive flooding all up and down our area.
Now, if you head north, or really sort of north-northeast of where you are, you come to North Topsail Beach, which was hit pretty hard by Bertha.
Yes, it was.
How did it fare this time?
Worse, quite frankly. North Topsail Beach lost their city hall and their police department earlier today. I understand that the Emergency Operations Center up in Onslow County is flooded, and they may be evacuating there. I also understand that the Pender County, which is in our chapter but a little northeast, that the EOC up there has some flooding problems. So this is still a very serious storm, and I'm real concerned about people getting out and really more concerned about loss of life after the storm, quite frankly.
But so far, just to be clear, people do seem to be safe even if they're having a bit rough go of it.
Yes, exactly. People are staying safe. They're staying in.
Toni Randall, Executive Director of the Cape Fear Red Cross chapter, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Now we're going to head up, I think it's about 40, 50 miles up the road, where Camp Lejeune is based. Major Rick Mill is the base operations officer at Camp Lejeune, a Marine Corps base. And how are things there, sir?
Well, Forrest, we're trying to pull together after the brunt of the storm has passed through here. And certainly we're worried, like everyone else is, about the backside of the storm and all of the wind associated with that. We're flooded just like everyone else is, and we're trying to assess the damage to the base now. But again, even as Dean had mentioned, we won't be able to do that effectively until tomorrow at first light.
Are your people all right?
All of our people are fine. We have had no reported injuries at all. We only had about 300 folks come to shelters that we had established. Everyone else stayed either in their homes or in the barracks complexes that we have here. And we were blessed in this storm in that we only had one house that was damaged.
Major Rick Mill, Base Operations Officer, Camp Lejeune, and I thank you, sir, and I hope that your folks are all safe there.
Thank you, Forrest.
All right, let's pause for just a moment, and when we come back, we want to get a bigger picture, learn how widespread the damage is all around North Carolina. We're talking to the governor when we come back.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by IBM.
It can't be. I got to see. It is. The 365. Boss, give a look.
Ugye ez egy IBM ThinkPad 365-ös.
Az bizony.
It could be no other. Feel the track point. Feast your eyes on the screen. Can we swing it, boss, huh?
Meglepően olcsó.
Yeah. That's my boss. What a guy, huh?
It's in all of us. The basic human instinct to protect oneself and one's future by holding on to life's certainties. For more than 130 years, Travelers Insurance has answered this basic need. With the comfort of our experience, the strength of our assets, the security of our products. What we all want is what Travelers Insurance provides. Something to hold on to.
Friday, Margot Kidder, her shocking, bewildering story. As Lois Lane, Superman protected her, but real life had turned to a nightmare. Have you been suicidal? My exclusive interview on 2020, Friday on ABC.
If we only gave you a bed liner, you may not consider it a big deal until you consider it comes with a new GMC pickup, your choice of Sonoma or Sierra, regular or extended cab, all with the strength and durability that's only GMC truck. So when you think about all the things you can do in your truck and all the places you can go, that bed liner we gave you not only becomes a big deal, but a big value. So hurry, see your GMC dealer today.
You're moving along, things going pretty much as you expected. Then suddenly... Curve for men and curve for women, new from Liz Claiborne.
Stop by the Liz Claiborne Fragrance Counter for a chance to win one of 20 new Chrysler Sebring convertibles.
Available at the Bonton.
I don't want you to think that this storm is over. It is far from over. It is just moving north from the coast, and it is causing a lot of problems as it does. In fact, it's moving over Raleigh, North Carolina, where Governor Jim Hunt is in the Emergency Operations Center for North Carolina. If you see a bad picture there, that's because we're having a little difficulty with transmission, as you might expect in this kind of circumstance. Governor, how are your people doing? Governor, can you hear me, sir? Well, there you see some of the problems that we have with live transmissions. I'm going to try to fix that problem for you in just a moment. And right now, switch over to Aaron Hayes, who is in Myrtle Beach, where they were bracing for a direct hit, and they got a little lucky. Is that right, Aaron?
Well, they've been lucky along the South Carolina coast for us. You know, for much of the past 2 days, Charleston, South Carolina was in the sights of hurricane forecasters because it appeared Hurricane Fran was on much the same track Hurricane Hugo was on 7 years ago. So evacuations were ordered all up and down the South Carolina coast. Well, tonight, many of those people have been told they can go home. Along the barrier islands outside Charleston, in the city itself, Hurricane Fran, to their relief, dealt barely a glancing blow. Now, here in Myrtle Beach, further to the north, the hurricane hit somewhat harder. Officials say the winds are still gusting too high for them to get out and check the damage, but even here, it appears the worst is over. At its height in Myrtle Beach, Hurricane Fran brought wind gusts pushing 80 miles an hour.
Am I coming out to ask Aaron a question?
The eye of the storm swept past here. Still, there was some damage apparent, mainly from the wind. Broken windows, alarms triggered, and trees were reported down throughout the Myrtle Beach area. And though power remained for many residents, enough lines were damaged here to cut power to 40,000 people. Still, this is nothing near what residents along the South Carolina coast had feared, and nothing like the damage they saw from Hurricane Hugo 7 years ago. They will get their final report at first light, but for now, county officials are optimistic that this area has been spared the worst of Hurricane Fran. A county official here told me late tonight, said, you know, when Hurricane Fran took that last little jog to the north, that's what spared us here in South Carolina. And though it's really too early for them to sound the all clear, as you can see, officials still think daylight here will bring them good news. Forrest?
Aaron, at its worst, Dean Reynolds tells us that he was getting roughed up there if you go up the road where the eye came across. How bad was it for you at its worst?
I'm sorry, Forrest, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
I was asking you, how bad was it for you at the worst when the storm came through?
It really wasn't that bad. I was here for Hurricane Hugo, and I was in Charleston then, and I remember how bad that was. I remember the sounds and sights of that, and they were rough. This was really mild.
Aaron Hayes in Myrtle Beach. Thanks very much, Aaron. And let's try once again to go to Raleigh, North Carolina. Remember, the storm is blowing there. Governor Jim Hunt at the Emergency Operations Center for the entire state. And Governor, just bring us up to date. How are things going for your people?
Well, we're having quite a blow, Forrest. It's really a dangerous storm. It's a very wide storm reaching almost across our state for hundreds of miles. And we're getting terrific rain. We're getting a lot of flooding up to 5 to 10 feet above some of the roads down on the coast. We've had a lot of damage. I have heard of 2 deaths, but we've had lost the roofs off of schools and churches, and great areas do not have any electrical power. I think tomorrow morning at first light, we're going to find terrific damage in North Carolina.
Well, actually, you're updating us because we had heard that only 1 person had died, a woman in a traffic accident. Now you have 2?
Yes, 1 died, I am told, in a mobile home. A tree fell across the mobile home. We ask everybody to leave mobile homes and go into these shelters, and we've got tens of thousands of people in them, but not everybody gets the word.
And you must be worried at this point that the people who did not take your advice and evacuate might have run into some problems through this storm.
We're very worried about that, and we're very worried about flooding. These areas had already had a lot of rain, and now we're getting 5 to 10 inches more across hundreds of miles of North Carolina. So we're apt to have a serious situation in large parts of our state. I declared all 100 counties in a state of emergency today and asked the President to act tomorrow on this. And I think that's going to turn out to be the case.
Governor Jim Hunt there in the Emergency Operations Center. Governor, you know we wish you well as you try to weather through this, all of the folks in North Carolina.
Thank you, Forrest.
We're going to be back with more on Hurricane Fran in just a moment.
No matter what size fax you send, no matter where in the world you send it, AT&T guarantees it'll get there. Because now, AT&T has 70% more international routes, which means more ways to get around trouble and more ways to steer clear of danger. So your international fax gets through. No matter where in the world you send it. Guaranteed network reliability at a competitive price, only from AT&T for the life of your business.
In a Saab 9000 Aero with 225 turbocharged horses, you could have serious fun. You could feel the rush of the torque. And when Automobile Magazine says you must drive this car, you could admire